How are you?
Well, how are you?
Thank you for being patient as he was waiting for me to get here. So, and he got all prepped up. I have something to actually lean on here.
Yep.
And we got some great things. But first, let's get into a little bit of the history, because Newport Storm, and we were speaking on the phone about it's 18 years.
18 years, 1999. Myself and four or three other partners from Colby College decided to start a brewery rather than go into pharmaceuticals and stuff.
So he came right at, this was a college thing.
Yeah, I've never had another job. I wrote my first resume for an award that my wife Annie and I won a couple years ago when I was 39 years old.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome. To be in the beer business for 18 years right out of college. That's amazing. And this story, I know your story has been out there, but you guys have had this evolution. And, you know, I was kind of having a conversation with Derek about where did this come from, and the story that you have posted on your site and people have heard over time. But really what I wanted to kind of let people get an understanding of was how you had an influence. Like, what was your influence to do this, and who helped you get this out there? You know, someone that kind of made this all come together for you.
So we were all kind of homebrewers in college, how a lot of other people will start out, but we were kind of book smart kids and just decided that we want to get into engineering, we want to get into our own business. And I mean, the college dream of starting a brewery is kind of what you do. So that's how it started. And again, that story will resonate with a lot of other brewers ourselves. But the business plan to start it out, I was very fortunate as we were speaking on the phone. I met a fellow by the name of John Mallett, who after Brent and I wrote our business plan on my way up the East Coast, I randomly ran into this fellow in a bar in Alexandria, Virginia. And he just happened to be moving breweries around the U.S. Very, very well known in the brewing industry. You kind of say John Mallett, and it's
people know who he is.
People know who he is.
Right.
And so he helped broker a deal for an original brewing company that we bought. Sight unseen, it was an old Breckenridge brewing company. You know, nothing like loading up 4 flatbeds down in Birmingham, Alabama, and trucking it up to the U.S. or trucking up to Rhode Island.
Wow.
And he just said, "Hey, who's good at plumbing? Who's good at electrical? Who's good? Let me give you an hour tutorial." So over the 3.5 month build out of our first brewery, he was really only there for about 8 days.
Really?
So we built everything. We poured our own concrete. We learned a lot of our own, how to just do stuff in the brewery. And I think that is what we owe a lot of our continued success to do, is we'll just figure out how to do it ourselves.
Nice.
We're not afraid to ask for help, but at the same token, we'll just do it ourselves. Whether it's Brent doing all kinds of great things with the guild with now help from all of our other Rhode Island brewers, or we'll figure out how to rip apart a computer, or we'll wire something, or we'll figure out some sort of programming, or just engineering. We'll do it.
So, I mean, to meet someone like that, you said you met him by happenstance, that you ran into this individual, and at that time frame there was a lot going on with the craft beer industry, if you will, with places that thought they could do it but really couldn't do it, and there was a lot of evolution.
Yeah, that was the first brewing bubble, if you would. There was a lot of breweries that started out in 1995 that didn't quite make it. They thought that they were gonna, make their $1 million, and
right.
Brewing equipment has really come down when you purchase new, and that's what a lot of people were doing back in the day, and they just couldn't foot the bill. They couldn't foot the note, and so we just got our first brewing system, which I think I put almost 1,700 brews through for literally pennies on the dollar, and then actually sold it and it's still in use in Virginia. And this guy John just helped us figure it out. I don't think he was there for the first brew day, which is a little. I remember it was Father's Day, but whatever. Well, our beer has certainly come a long way. It's not that we weren't making bad beer in the beginning, and actually the first beer that we came out with, which was our Amber Ale, it's the only beer that we currently still make that we've never changed the recipe for.
So this has never changed?
This has never changed.
But to have someone like that you came in, and like you said, there was differences in how he was there and helped you and everything, but that's got to be motivating and inspiring in that regard.
Oh, absolutely. And he's still, we're a distillery now as well, and for every Thanksgiving, he's the head of production at Bell's Brewing Company in Michigan now. And I send a little care package with some of our more unique beers and a bottle of rum, and he returns the favor.
So you mentioned that you're a distillery now. So talk about the difference between being the brewery and the distillery.
So one of the things that we're grandfathered in a lot. It's a lot harder to start up a distillery and a brewery now, just because of the rise of how the industry has gone over. But in 2006, for us, it it wasn't as easy as just buying something else. But we already had the pumps, the pipes, the hoses.
Okay.
It was more just figuring out what we wanted to make, and that was very, very easy to decide. In that we made rum. Newport was not founded upon rum, but was known worldwide for its excellent rum production. And so, as our first spirit, being the first distiller in Rhode Island, let's make something that's really authentic and true to history, if you would. So
you got 2 products that you're producing.
We have 2 products that we're producing. Last year we made 23 different styles of beer, which is kind of crazy for someone that's our size.
So that was one of the big questions I had: is how many different varietal styles are you up to now that you have for beer?
Yeah, so I think it was like around 23. And the Amber Ale is still our best-selling beer. It's still the one that grows the most year over year, which is neat, especially in a time when Amber Ales aren't doing great on a national level, but when you do something great and do it right in the beginning, and you have your local following, it's you don't want to mess it around. So I even chilled this down for you.
Oh, look at this! I have
go.
someone giving me a message here to say hello to you, so I'm looking to see who it is. Let's see, Maggie Longo.
Oh my God!
Maggie Longo said to say that you were
Wow,
an old
mistress.
friend, and said to say that she misses you. So Maggie, there, I got your shout out for him.
Mistress. Back in the day.
Mistress. So 23
different kinds.
Different kinds.
And we have 4 fermentation tanks now in our new facility that Maggie's actually been to. I was unfortunately not there the day that her and my friend showed up, like 5 years ago.
Maggie, he'll make it up to you one way or another. He's got 23 different things.
I remember that day, which is rare. But so bunches of different styles of beer, and they're all different. That's one thing I think is really unique about our facility. Is that if you come down to our visitor center and our tasting room and now back with our pavilion, all the beers taste different from each other. So this one is a great introductory beer for when we started. When we started in 1999, this Amber Ale, which was it was too dark and it was too bitter in 1999 for most of the Rhode Island population. I mean, when we first started out, it was really educating people about craft beer. And now the level of people that are asking me questions in a bar. Unfortunately, I don't do as much sales as I used to do, where I'm not out there as much because I'm always making beer, which is neat. But
he mentioned to me that he fell asleep with the beer last night, so he's not kidding when he says he's always making beer.
Sometimes you got to babysit the beer.
You got to babysit the beer. That's what it was.
But back in the day, in '99, it was. This is what we do. This is the 4 main ingredients of beer. It was most of the time it was really yellow fizzy beer. There's nothing wrong with that, but our job was to educate people.
Right.
And now, like I said, in a bar, people are asking, well, what kind of hops? I've heard of Vic Secret hops, or I've heard of Galaxy hops, or I've heard of Magnum hops, and no one knew anything 18 years ago.
So talk about going to the brewery. People can come tour the brewery, taste these 23 different types that you have.
Well, not always on tap. We make a lot of really unique things. Being the distillery, a lot of things that we will make are barrel aged, and they're very unique and small. Small case runs, 150 cases max, and they're like 22 ounce bottles. Exactly, and that's kind of what the industry trend is going towards. And that's kind of a challenge in our facility, where it's 60 barrel tanks. I mean, that's 800 cases of beer. If you're doing something really unique and special, and you're only sold in Rhode Island and Pennsylvania for our beer, that's hard to, you're asking a small state to drink a lot of beer. Right. So a lot of times we're making quarter or half batches even in our tanks, which is sometimes an engineering. You've got to figure out how to play around with that kind of stuff.
So one of the other questions I have, and you just touched upon it, was Rhode Island and Pennsylvania, those are distribution points. Mm-hmm. How did Pennsylvania get in there? And
they called us.
They called you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's we used to be in.
So a Rhode Island company got called by Pennsylvania to go distribute our beer.
Right,
That's
and
awesome.
We used to be in other areas. We actually self-pulled out of those areas because of this uber local movement, and that's something we would love to see. Thank you. I should too. I feel a little naked not drinking beer. So
you should. You can
because now I can cheers you.
So Pennsylvania called you. You had other areas that you kind of pulled out of. Is there other plans to try to now expand into different markets that you've reached this level?
I don't think so. I mean, if somebody wants to contact us, like Pennsylvania did, by all means, we'll see if it's a good fit. Because just because you're in another state, it's not often that great. You got to worry about product. You got to worry about rotating it. Out of stock issues and shipping costs and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot of logistics that goes into it. And again, there's this, like I said, this uber local movement, and we think that there's still lots more that can be done here in our home state. The low-hanging fruit. There's lots of people that are interested in local food and restaurants that are interested in local food, and I still think that lots of restaurants can really look at now the 15 breweries in Rhode Island and have lots more local beer on tap.
And that movement has expanded. So tell me about the other kinds that you've got before.
Yeah, so I don't even have a sip yet.
I'm good to have a sip because this is the part I'm interested in.
Right.
This one out.
So in '99, we make this beer called a Hurricane Amber Ale. As you see it, as you taste it, it's very light to medium body. It's got a caramel sweetness to it. It's not very bitter. It's not. It's just an easy all around. This goes with almost every kind of food.
And I like it. So you're hearing this.
Yeah,
I like it.
and he likes it. That's good. We did something right.
You did great.
So if we came out with this next beer that we'll talk about called Road Trip,
Okay.
that we just started making, and I will say that this beer was almost consumer driven.
Okay.
Right. So this, if you take a whiff of that amber ale, and then
So you guys get a significant amount of feedback that's impacting how you're making these beers.
absolutely.
Okay.
So you smell that, and then just I can already smell the hops that are coming booming out of this can.
Oh my God, completely different. A lot of citrus.
A lot of citrus. So this beer here is a really fun journey for us that we call Road Trip, and then it's the same malt backbone, but we change the hops all the time.
Oh wow.
So back in the day, people strove and were really, really looking for consistency. If you had a keg of beer and you were a restaurateur that sold maybe a keg every week or week and a half, that was really good beer for you. Now it's, if you sell 2 kegs of a certain beer in a week, maybe you actually don't want to have that next week. It's the driving what's next.
This is awesome.
So this particular beer, we've now brewed 4 different batches, and the hops always change. So we've used Galaxy, we've used Big Secret, we've used Citra, we've used Mosaic. I'm actually adding a bunch of lemon drop to another one that's in the tank today, and it's just kind of our fun way of doing something that's the same but different all the time.
So when someone comes to visit you, do they have the opportunity to kind of learn about this education process that we're talking about now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be being a small business. My business partner Brent, he's out of town. I'm going to be at the brewery all weekend. This coming weekend, we give tours and tastings. Our staff is awesome. They're super passionate about what we do. They're into Rhode Island beers.
Make it 18 years, you have to be.
Right, and that always is something that people will comment on as well.
So what do we got back here?
So this is actually something that we just not necessarily made today, but twice a year we do a variety pack. We do one in the summertime and we do one in the wintertime. And both of the variety packs will have our Amber Ale and our India Point Ale. We make a beer after India Point Park. And then we have our Winter Porter and a beer that we only brew for a variety pack, which is a smoked porter. The malt comes, it's a Beechwood smoked malt that comes from Germany. It's about 75% of the base recipe, so it's like barbecue sauce. It's super smoky. It's super smooth.
I have a feeling I'm going to have a lot of you guys visiting my house this weekend. We're
going to bring this with you, which is kind of cool.
Awesome. And then what do we got in this wine bottle? We're going to pull this one to the front
Right,
so
so what we do with our annual limited release, again, think back 1999. Not lots of people were doing this, where what we would do is we started making a beer that's a theme.
Okay.
Every year it's always changed.
It's my kind of theme after a wine bottle.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it, because I knew
Awesome.
you were into wine. So far, it's never been below 11.5%, but the recipe's never been the same. And so, for instance, in 2012, we made an Ode to the Maya with lots of hot pepper. It actually made you sweat. 3,000 hand-corked wine bottles in a day. In 2014, I literally shoveled snow for 9 hours and made the world's first ever snow beer. Myself and Brent, we moved like 19,000 pounds of water that day. It was a lesson in water conservation. This one here, because lots of times in the wintertime, it's a little bit less of a production, we took advantage of that and we made a beer that sat in the tanks for almost 4.5 months. And we went on the spicy side. Everyone's talking about floral and citrus. Well, this is a lager yeast that took a long time, low and slow fermentation, lots of German Sapphire hops, Tettnang hops, and a lot of rye. This beer has almost 21% rye. So you think of that spiciness that you get out of a pumpernickel, and that's the spicy we are trying to,
You can smell it. It's unbelievable. So I'm going to be enjoying this afterwards, and I'll take pictures of me having it in a wine glass. You're going to wait and see. So before I let Derek go, I got 2 last questions that should give an update on things that you've got going on at the brewery, because I've got a number of people that told me, they're fond of you, they buy you when they're out there, they get you in the restaurants, but they haven't come out to visit in a while. I noticed that you have an event coming up.
Yes. Well, every the only day that we're not open to visitation is Tuesdays. We got to do the paperwork sometime. Sorry if you come to the door and we're actually locked. I know. So
it's only sad. On Tuesdays they're closed. Okay.
Yeah, only on Tuesdays. The rest of the week, our visitor center is open from 12 until 5.
Okay.
And then it's open until 6 on the weekends, and that's a huge change from our old facility, where we were kind of in the back behind where they make boats. Right. If someone came to our door, we thought they were a salesperson, and now people. it's great. Like whether they're visiting us or Ragged or Foolproof or Revival or there's a great growing beer community here in Rhode Island.
And it's kind of becoming, I'll talk about this more as the segment goes on, this tourism surge of people who come to visit us are going specifically to see you guys while they're here.
Exactly. So with our new facility, we geared it more towards wanting people to come visit rather than, someone's coming to visit.
Gotcha.
So not this weekend, but the next weekend, we have haunted brewery and distillery tours. So Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, from 7 to 10. Bunch of information's on our website about it. Maybe we'll see you down. I'll do my best to
Absolutely,
scare
I would
you.
love to come down and check it out. Well, thank you very much for coming in today. This is
My
awesome,
pleasure.
been educational and delicious, and yes, you'll be seeing me drinking more of this today through the weekend. So thank you very much, Derek. I really
pleasure.
appreciate your time. It was great to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Congratulations again on the 18